We have another significant update on the Arizona Coyotes relocation saga. We have reports today indicating that many of the players and staff are extremely upset, pissed off, if not feeling betrayed. We also have updates that it's been rumored a long time that this team, the Coyotes, were expected to be big spenders in free agency, making trades and really taking the team a step forward this summer. Now it all makes more sense knowing that they could have a new owner and new location. We'll discuss all we've learned since the last update coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some more information, some new updates on the whole saga around the Arizona Coyotes relocating to Salt Lake City, Utah as early as next season, with an announcement possibly coming sometime next week. We don't know for sure if that's going to happen, but things appear to be, according to the insiders, 90 to 95% down the track. It's just a matter of finishing off the negotiations and making sure everything is all agreed to before everything is made official. It sounds like April 18th is still a target date, but of course, negotiations can drag on, things can happen, and of course, we don't know how everything's going to go. That's all just everybody's best intel on the latest developments. But there's been lots of talk this morning from the 32 Thoughts podcast, some updates from Elliotte Friedman and Jeff Merrick, talking about internally how things are going with the Coyotes and how things are feeling right now. And Elliotte Friedman basically says that he was at the game, of course, when the Coyotes were playing the Vancouver Canucks. He was in Vancouver for that charity event that he does every year. Had a chance to be around the team, had a chance to talk to some people, and just kind of get a general feeling. He said he was very careful to not spend too much time with any one particular person, or just trying to make sure that if anything he says doesn't get linked to anybody specific, because clearly this wasn't about him really kind of, going after info, because he knows a lot of it already. It's just a matter of really trying to get a sense for how everybody's feeling. And he said, essentially, many of the Coyotes players and staff, they're all pissed off, if you will, upset, angry, and they're looking at this as a complete and utter betrayal. Considering the PR of the team on all their social media channels, putting out all the hope and all the, moving forward with the new arena, the renderings and the auction and everything. Team president Javier Gutierrez, conducting interviews, talking about, selling all the hope, if you will, right? This has been the big thing for the last number of weeks, selling of hope, and that they're going to get this done. And then meanwhile, in the background, we're learning that all along, because this has been going on for some time, that, Alex Muriel has been negotiating to sell the team, either no matter how it shakes down, and to have it moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. Like, there's been theories that it goes from Muriel to the NHL, and then the NHL sells it to Ryan Smith's entertainment group. And then we've also heard it could just be directly from Muriel to Smith. Either way, the NHL wants a relocation fee out of this, so they'll structure things legally, so they have to, how they get that. Obviously the Coyotes players have been kept from the, speaking out, if you will, and nobody's really allowed to talk about things internally, but they're not hearing anything and getting any updates at all either. They're following along on social media and listening to the news just like everybody else. There's been no updates from the top down, which they're also pretty pissed about. I know head coach Andre Tourigny is one of the few people that have actually talked at all, and according to Friedman, he says, publicly and privately, he's been the one who's kind of taken it upon himself to kind of feel like, okay, I'm not going to be afraid to speak up here and say I don't like how people are being treated. Like I said, there's a lot of people to be considered here, not just the players. A lot of people that work for this team, like I said, are they going to even have a chance to go with the new ownership group to Utah to keep their jobs, or are they out of a job, or what's happening? Their livelihood is at stake. A lot of the staff, you got to remember, they're not making millions of dollars like some of the players. They're not wealthy. A lot of these are just average, everyday people, and a job loss can be, substantial. They don't have huge savings in the bank account to get them through and to continue living the same lifestyle. It can be a major, impact and disruptor of their life. So, clearly there's a lot of people very, very, very unhappy and absolutely, justified in saying so. I mean, based on all that, like Friedman said, like he doesn't think that anybody connected to this team right now, if they give like Muriel an opportunity to get the Coyotes back as an expansion team down the road, and that's expected to be in the sale conditions of some degree. And obviously there'll be conditions on what he has to meet to have that happen, and we'll see if there's even remotely feasible. But he says he doesn't think anybody connected to this team right now is even going to trust him or that group that are in charge at all. So don't expect anybody there to ever want to be connected to that ownership again, based on how things have gone down here. And that's going to spread. Absolutely. So it is hard to imagine how Alex Muriel could once again be an owner of the NHL team in Arizona and have it thrive, be successful. Like just the way they do business has really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I think that's also a big part of what we were seeing here. Like we see resistance from the Scottsdale mayor on the arena project that was proposed. We saw how things went down when they were leaving Gila River Arena. Like I know some people say that they were basically kicked out of their old arena there for not paying the lease payments. That isn't technically true. But if you remember, though, there was news, and this was during the Muriel ownership, that they had gone public with it, saying that they owed, I can't remember what the amount was, but they were severely behind on their payments, and they had so many days to get it paid, or they were going to be kicked out. And then they did miraculously get it paid. Checks showed up. They were behind on that. They were behind on taxes, too, of, I believe, local taxes of some sort. So they clearly were not paying bills. And they were not paying bills on time. And whether that's because you, don't have the money, or for whatever reason, like, why wouldn't you pay your bills if you have the money? That's the part that I don't quite understand. But we've heard about how Muriel can do business that way, and how it's just, for some reason, always trying to kind of, I'm not going to pay it, or eventually they'll come back to me, I'll renegotiate it, I'll be able to save money. Like, it's just a weird practice, in my opinion. And now we've been reminded of reports from Frank Saravalli, which a lot of people probably overlooked. And I know a lot of people locally in Arizona have given Frank a lot of crap over the last several weeks and months for his reports. And I think now they're starting to see that, Frank was bang on, and he was more accurate than we want to admit at the time. But he had reminded us on his podcast back, I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was earlier during the season, that the Arizona Coyotes were not paying their hotel bills. This was the current season. And the NHL apparently had to intervene. This is on good sources, which I believe the main source of this information would come from NHL agents, but we'll see. But it's been talked about here recently that essentially the NHL had to intervene and make sure those bills got paid. So why were they not paying their hotel bills? Again, why do you think there's so much skepticism around their ability to have a multi-billion-dollar project like building an arena and entertainment district? Are they going to start, getting all their contractors, subcontractors, everything all lined up and then not pay them? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's with Muriel, it's like a lot of people associate not paying bills to not having money, which is why they get accused of that. And if that's the case, and if he really is as rich as everybody says and lets on, why do they not pay their bills? They have a history of not doing it. Now, in the past, besides the other ownership groups, I think it was more of a legit that the team was struggling and just really couldn't, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I don't know. I haven't seen his bank account, so I can't speak to how much money Muriel really has. But at the end of the day, it's been a way of doing business that have rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I think he's lost a lot of support locally, which is why you get resistance to this project, is because there's too many, I think, people that they've kind of rubbed the wrong way with how they do business at the end of the day. And there's been, according to Friedman as well, a lot of skepticism around the league and around the PA that they were going to be able to get this done. And it's just that simple. Like, and not only to get it done, some people might have been more confident they could do it, but not in the timelines that they were projecting. Like I've said a couple of times now on videos here on the channel, I've never built an NHL arena, but I have worked in the finance industry for over 20 years. And I've been involved with a lot of commercial-based projects and a lot of different financing projects, and nothing to that level of that kind of money. But I know the smaller scale, bigger projects I've been involved in, They rarely run on the right timelines. They're always behind. It always costs more money. There's just a lot that goes into it. And knowing what I know about the land and the lack of infrastructure there, I just don't see how they can complete it in the timelines they were saying. I really think it's going to be longer, more expensive, and I'm not sure that it's worth it at the end of the day. And if this ownership group is going to continue to do business practices the way they do, are they really the right people to be giving a franchise to as expansion down the road? I don't know. I mean, I know legally, I think the NHL has kind of decided that they've had enough of this owner. I think they've had enough of the Mullet Arena. They've got a lot of pressure from the PA to not play at Mullet Arena anymore. I don't think there's a lot of confidence in their plan for this new arena to be done on the timelines, so that they didn't end up playing in Mullet Arena for 5 or 6 years. So that's what's kind of pushed everything to the brink. And then you throw in Ryan Smith from Utah, who's a younger, rich billionaire who loves the sport of hockey. He's very passionate about it, and he's just very, I don't know how to describe him, but from what we hear, he's a guy that the NHL really wants to be in their league. Like, he's just a really... he sounds like he could sell ice to an Eskimo, as they say. Like, he could sell. He's just, like, from a sales perspective, like, he's so high tempo, high energy. Got deep pockets, great visionary. Well liked, well connected businessman, and it's just a guy that they want involved in the league. And they see an opportunity here for him to get involved and to get out of the situation. But I understand why they wouldn't want to bail completely on the Arizona market. I don't think this is a market issue. I think this is more than anything. It's about having the right ownership group with the right arena situation for that market to thrive. And they have not had it the entire time that they've been a franchise there, and that's been a big part of the reason why they've continuously struggled with attendance and everything else. There's obviously a lot of local fans there that I feel for. There's a lot of kids programs. I know like the youth hockey has grown tremendously in the area. We see stars like Austin Matthews, the biggest name for sure, Matthew Nyes. Guys like that would not probably be in the NHL if they didn't have the Coyotes to look up to when they were little. So I do feel for that group as well. It's going to be, hopefully that doesn't get impacted too much, and hopefully they can figure out hockey in Arizona down the road again. But it's hard to imagine with this ownership group that it's going to be successful. That's just where things are at. But the other big thing that Friedman had to say today as well was that he had heard rumblings back earlier this year from a number of NHL sources saying that the Coyotes were expected to be spending a lot of money this offseason. Like, look for the Coyotes to be, big spenders. That they were going to be really changing things this year, which a lot of people, when they heard that rumor, they're like, what? It's the Coyotes. Like, what are you talking about? They're not big spenders. And if they're going to be invested, look at how they've done business this past year. They wouldn't even retain salary on some of their trades, like Zucker and Dumba, which is why their returns were crap, because they would not retain half the money, and they were not able to. Like, I know Sarah Valley reported as well that they were not allowed to do contracts right now, which makes sense if this is in a process of being sold. That totally makes sense. Look at what we heard about Ottawa last year when that sale was going through, that anything that at all like had to go through their board of trustees and be cleared by the new owner. So things are probably far enough along that they'd probably want it the same way. And considering the time of year, it just doesn't make sense for them to be doing anything of that nature. Whereas the Ottawa stuff had to drag on into the summer and to the part of the time of year where they really had no choice but to do some business in regards to contracts. But at the end of the day, it makes more sense now knowing that all the rumors about the Coyotes being bigger spenders and getting more involved with UFAs on the free agent market and making trades, that it's going to be a new owner that has deeper pockets and is willing to spend. He's not going to take this team to Utah and be status quo here. He's going to want to take all the things that they've built. They've got lots of draft capital, lots of prospects. I wouldn't be shocked to see some trades made to bring in some top veterans. There's a lot of interesting names on the UFA market. And like I said, this guy wants to put money into it and make this team better to get into the playoffs next year. So don't be surprised if this team goes to Utah and Utah becomes a big player on the free agent and trade market over the course of the offseason. I mean, the other thing that they've said as well, the other kind of rush here on the Ryan Smith Entertainment Group side of things is that obviously, at the end of the season, they're typically going to have some meetings and a team party before everybody goes on their way, but usually within a few days of the season being over, everybody's dispersed and gone to their own thing, back to wherever they spend their summers, whatnot. And Friedman says that Ryan Smith is as much as he doesn't want to chase people down to get their thoughts and everything over Zoom, he'd rather be the one to run a team meeting shortly after the regular season is over, to talk to everybody, to let them know what his vision, his plans are, to get the sense of how they're feeling, instead of chasing people to do a whole bunch of meetings by Zoom throughout the course of, April, May, June, whatever. So at the end of the day, it sounds like we have a very aggressive owner to be here who wants to get this done and wants to be able to talk to this team as early as April 18th, 19th, before all the players kind of disperse and go their own way. I mean, it's only fair that they leave knowing some kind of expectations on what's going to happen here, instead of having to follow the news just like the rest of us, wondering what the heck's going on, since they're not getting really any kind of genuine info from Muriel or the organization that they're currently employed with. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, lots of moving parts here. Is this still happening? Very likely. Could they Utah team be aggressive this summer? Sure sounds like it. Lots of pissed off people in the Coyotes organization around how they're being treated and the lack of information, which totally makes sense. Will this be a case of the Coyotes becoming an inactive franchise? And, will that still be an expansion team down the road? How is that all going to work? That part that Friedman mentioned kind of raised more questions than answers. And, well, obviously, like I said, the other information we're kind of being reminded about as far as, the skepticism around the league, the lack of the hotel bills being paid. It's just, a real crappy way of doing business. And if it's not a case of them not having the money, then why do you do business that way and continuously just upset people, burn bridges, and make them not want to support you? It's not really a good long-term play here. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And it's just really hard to imagine the NHL basically wrestles this franchise away into the hands of Ryan Smith, why they would give this guy another opportunity. It doesn't add up to me. But let me know your thoughts on the latest updates here from the Coyotes, the relocation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll discuss further. We'll be back a little bit later with rest of the news around the league, and of course, if there's any other significant updates around this progressing in either direction, we'll be back with other videos to report on that as well. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.